When you have a $180 billion budget and 350,000 employees, that's a big company, okay? 350,000 employees, it's like getting up into Walmart and Berkshire Hathaway territory. That's the VA, the Veterans Administration, and it is not working smoothly. By many metrics, it's a mess. Donald Trump says enough. When he becomes president, January 20th, he says he wants to change it. He had just dropped this rather big bombshell saying possible privatization, meaning take it away from the government and give it to the private sector. Is that a good thing? Let's bring in retired Army Staff Sergeant Anthony Cala. He knows the VA all too well. 3 tours of duty in Iraq. He was hit by an improvised explosive device on his last tour, suffered traumatic brain injury, had to deal with the VA. He joins us now along with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who joins us once again, and we appreciate his perspective because he's a former congressman and had to deal with the VA himself. First to you, Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. What was your experience with the Veterans Administration in the VA hospital when you came back from serving in Iraq?
Oh, when I came back from my 3rd deployment in Iraq in 2011, I went to the VA, and after appointment, it was, here's another medication for you, here's a medication for you. I think when I was all over and done with, after being to the VA a total of 20 times over a period of 3 months, I had a total of 12 medications. So when I got hired from a software company and had private insurance, I cut down 12 medications to only 2. So the care of service with the VA, it does need a little bit of help, and I think that privatizing it would definitely help the veterans that are getting out of the service.
Well, do you think that privatizing it might have its downsides? You know, there are some people who are concerned about that. When you put in the almighty dollar, there are unintended consequences where that sort of power toward profit sometimes leaves the actual patient behind. Do you foresee any of that issue?
I mean, I think with anything that you do new, I think there's always going to be issues, but I think for the 1% of military service members that have served this country, to give them a choice of whether or not they can go to the VA or go see a private a doctor and get that personal care. I remember my appointments only lasting about 15 and 20 minutes, and if I wanted to talk to a doctor, I had to reschedule 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later. So when it comes to choice between am I going to use the VA or am I going to use private insurance, I would use private insurance all the way. Yes, there's going to be costs, but I think we owe it to our service members that are coming back, that are having issues and difficulties adjusting to civilization.
Colonel West, listening to Anthony Cala's story is extremely frustrating. In fact, it's maddening to those of us who really feel that these people deserve gold star care, platinum star care. Why can't the VA get it right? And maybe we don't need to sit there and mull why they can't get it right. Maybe Donald Trump's suggestion is a better way. What do you, as a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and a former congressman, say about privatizing?
Well, one of the things you have to come to understand is that you're talking about an ideological issue, because this is the single-payer system that a lot of people don't want to admit has failed. And when you look at the 21 different regions, what they call the Veterans Integrated Service Networks, we need to look at each and every one of those regions and come up with better public-private partnerships so that someone like Anthony does not have to wait for an appointment. It should not take a veteran more than 2, maybe 3 days to get an appointment to be seen. And if we have a system that cannot see that veteran within that 2 to 3 days, then that veteran should be able to go elsewhere and find that. But there's a culture in the Veterans Administration system that has to be broken, where they're not worried about our veterans, they're worried about the government bureaucracy. And you talked about 350,000 employees, a $150 to $160 billion budget, and we're only talking about 8.7 million veterans. Anthony just talked about 1%. If we can't do what is right for 1% of the population of the United States of America, that's a failure. So without a doubt, we have to look for better efficiencies. And I think one of the key things, Liz, 65 to 70% of the middle and upper level management of the VA system needs to be veterans.
Sergeant Cala, you, that
I agree,
veteran,
100%.
You've been lucky enough to work for a private company now that takes, as I understand it, much better care of you with their health insurance. What do you feel in your heart for those veterans, millions of them, who do not have that luxury? What's your thought to them?
Well, first, I'm saddened that I get a choice of whether I want to use my private insurance with my company or go to the VA. I have quite a few friends all over Florida and Washington that have used the VA, and they say the care is great. Then I have other friends that say the care isn't great. I just want veterans after me that come out of service to be able to be treated fairly. And I agree 100% with what Congressman is saying, that upper management should be veterans. I think that they should do a hiring where every veteran can get a job at the VA, whether it's doing security or doing cleanup, whatever they can find a job for us to do. I think that by having other veterans, other familiar faces when a veteran comes to receive care, I think that's a great thing. That's a huge benefit for veterans coming out of service.
Yeah, listen, we appreciate hearing your very personal story. It's great to see you. Thank you so much. Staff Sergeant Anthony Cala and Colonel Alan West. Great to see both of you.
Thank you very much.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. To you too. And thank you both for your service. We will never forget it. Closing bell, 5 minutes away.